Radical acceptance is my most favorite thing on the planet. It is something I learned as I went down my Buddhist practice journey and my healing journey. And it is the foundation of everything that I do with my clients, right? And I have a podcast on radical acceptance. I have a series here on YouTube on radical acceptance. But I thought I'd kind of bring it back to the top, like, hey, it's right here. So you don't have to search too much for it. I'm not going to do a whole series on it because there is one out there that I did. Radical acceptance is your ability to accept things as they are. So people say this all the time. Well, how can I do this? There's not a magic pill. I'm not going to be like, well, take this pill and you radically accept things. It's lowering your ego. Radical acceptance is dropping your ego. Radical acceptance is checking your ego and staying in your lane. That's what radical acceptance is, because the ego comes up here. So if you're like, well, but I don't like it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you like it. It doesn't matter if you love it. It doesn't matter any of that. It is what it is. Okay? And the art of radical acceptance is literally being vulnerable, laying down your sword, so to speak. This is why those 5 journals, watch the 5 journal series here. They're like 5-10 minute videos in a series, in a playlist, 5 journal series, highly important. And it'll help you process it. Well, but I want it to be this way. Well, that's great. But is it that way? It is not. Now, you can look at something and say, can I make this change? Can I change it? Not, can the person change it? Can I change it? Yes. Then good. Now we have an action plan. Now we can micro goal. Now we can start doing things. So if you're like, I don't like how my life is, well, you can do something about that. You might not know exactly what, but you have the capability of doing it. So you have to radically accept that it isn't going to be easy and it is what it is, but you can make that change. Now, if you say, well, the relationship with my brother sucks, and it always has, and it's just not, it's like not changing. I want it to be different. Okay, but it's not different. It's not going to be different. You've made a valiant effort. It's not going to change. So you process your emotions. You allow your emotions to say, wow, I'm really sad that this isn't how I want it to be. Cool. Now, not only is that good in your journal, negative journal, now you can say why you are attached to the idea of having that relationship with your brother. Well, because I see everybody else. Okay, now we go into comparison. Why are we comparing? And just because you see 2 people hanging out together, you don't know their backstory. And yeah, they're different people. Yeah, well, I mean, but I want it to be different. I hear you, but that's your ego. Your ego is saying you're not allowed to have autonomy. Your past, I don't care what has happened in your past, good, bad, indifferent. I don't care if you hit the lottery. I don't care if you didn't. The reality is that time, regardless of how many times you replay that in your head, how many times you ruminate on it, how many times you try to figure it out, it's not changing. Your past is dead and gone. It is never coming back. There is nothing you can do to bring it back. There is nothing you can do to replay that scenario that's going to make it different. It is over. What could happen can't happen right now. It could happen. It ain't here now. You've got to radically accept that your life is temporary. I don't care if you like it. It's temporary. Everything in your life is temporary. I don't like that. Doesn't matter. It is what it is. It's radical acceptance. And that's a big piece of what you're struggling with, is you keep trying to change a narrative. You want it to be different and you resist that acceptance. But the reality is you're here now. What are you going to do with it now? You're so focused on the rumination of the things that could have been different and why things happen or what could happen and all of these things over here. But why me and all of those things? None of that is staying present. None of that is accepting that this is where you are. We know so much of where you are today has more to do with somebody else's unhealed trauma, somebody else's inappropriate behavior, anything like that. But we're here now. We're here now. And whether you like it or not, it is your responsibility to process and heal. It is no one's responsibility. It is no one's job to come and rescue you. No one. No one. Now, this is important that you accept it, because this gives you the power. See, by ruminating on it and trying to change the narrative and trying to control all of this here, you're literally vomiting your power all over everybody. Here, take it. Everybody, please take my power. Past, please take it. All of this. When you harness and go, wow, I'm really responsible for my happiness. I'm really responsible for healing. I'm responsible for my own consistency. I'm responsible for my self-awareness. I'm responsible for healing and being consistent in all of my practices. Wow. But you've given that power away. And to radically accept that people aren't coming, that it isn't somebody's responsibility. It's not your spouse's responsibility to cope with what you're dealing with. It's not. And you don't got to love it. But until you accept it, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to live in expectation. You're not going to heal your attachment. This is where you are. This is radically accepting it. Because the alternative is, if you don't accept it, it's literally going to live rent-free in your head. Now, we know that that's a little bit harder if you have anxiety, panic disorder, depression, bipolar, borderline, but it's not impossible. And again, those afflictions, those things that you're dealing with, that I'm dealing with, that so many other people in this world are dealing with, it's no one else's responsibility to coddle you through the healing. Is it going to be a little bit more difficult? Yes. Does this mean you're going to have to micro-goal a little bit more? Yes. Are you going to have to be more self-disciplined than maybe the person who isn't struggling with that? Yes. But guess who's responsible for that? No one but you. And when you accept that the relationships are not as you want them to be, the situations are not as you want them to be, if you lay there and you cry, and you're allowed to cry, by the way, you're allowed to be sad, but if you don't process it, you're going to get stuck. So you're allowed to cry, you're allowed to feel the sadness, but let that teach you where you still need to heal. You are so capable, my God, you're so capable of healing those wounds. But you keep giving everybody the antidote and you want them to use it. They don't have to. They don't have to apologize to you. They don't have to have access to you, but they don't have to apologize to you. They don't have to try to explain it to you, because the explanation will never be really enough. It's not going to change the past. And when you realize that it's, yes, you are supposed to learn. You are supposed to fail. You're supposed to make these mistakes. You're allowed to go through a little bit regret, but allow those regrets to become lessons. When the regrets become lessons, you no longer have regrets. You have growth. So when you're growing from the things that you've done, I don't mean looking at a relationship and going, oh, well, I know what I've learned, not to trust anybody. That's not what we're doing here. That's not what we're doing here. What you've learned is, okay, maybe you need to have more boundaries. You need to focus on your self-love. Maybe you just don't jump from this relationship to this relationship because it's attachment. Maybe you take a pause, right? Because until you're able to be good with yourself, just because you live by yourself doesn't mean that you're good with yourself. That just means that you live by yourself. Are you being consistent in your practices? Are you allowing yourself, you putting yourself out there? Are you allowing yourself to be in a position that is uncomfortable for you? And babe, you have the power. This is all, you have so much more power than you even give yourself credit for. See, you think it's bad that it's your responsibility to heal you. You think it's bad that it's your responsibility to give you happiness. Oh my God, no. That means that people can't take something away that you're capable of having. You are in control of your happiness, your peace. People can't take it away unless you give them, here, take my peace. Then yes, they can take it from you, but they're not really taking it. You're giving it to them. So that's where I want you to understand with radical acceptance. Go back, listen to the podcast. Go back, listen to the series. Radical acceptance is staying present and accepting that inherently everything is out of your control but your mindset. And you're in control of that. You're in control of how you see the day. Is the day going to be crappy? Well, it is. If you're going to sit there and look at everything crappy, then you're going to spotlight it. You're going to get and you're going to bring into light everything that you're wanting to see. You think you don't want to see it, but you do want to see it because that's why you're focusing on it. You think it's easier to maintain and hold on to what it would look like to not work out. In turn, that's what you're always going to always going to bring in, and you're going to prevent any kind of abundance. Areas for you to work in. Don't judge yourself. Don't be like, what's wrong with me? Oh my God, I'm so stupid. Like, no. Compassion for self and use it as a teachable moment. Use your insecurities as a teachable moment. Use the things that you're struggling with as a teachable moment, not as a judgment moment, as something to give you the foundation to spring rocket on. So get consistent with those journals. Start writing what it is that you're refusing to accept, because it's only going to harm you. And just because you refuse to accept it will never change it.